used to work no longer works, and most people won't tell you that because even when a method stops working, the content still gets views, and views equals money. Now, I know it may sound hypocritical saying that I'm making this video, but if you have been part of this channel long enough, I'm sure you know by now I only post what I've done, do, tested, and or intensely researched. And because of this, I have a front row seat in noticing when things change and industries shift. Let's take it back to 2020 when the world basically paused. Remember getting paid to do surveys, watching ads, doing little tasks on apps? It worked, at least for most people. It was never a lot of money, but the frequency of gigs made it worth it. But why did it work back then? We were stuck at home. Businesses weren't getting enough real-world user data. We weren't out shopping, testing products in stores, or living normally. New startups popped up everywhere. Anyone who wanted to launch an idea had time to do so. This then meant they needed user feedback, which would be easier to get if the world hadn't paused. But that wasn't the case. So companies paid to get that. There was a good balance between companies needing users and people needing extra ways of making money. Some even lost their jobs around that time. When life went back to normal, so did our habits. We were back outside, back at work, back to spending, interacting with different products, new and old. That meant companies could get natural user data without needing to pay you to sit and answer 20 questions. Another factor that dried up the easy money is saturation. People like myself made videos plugging everyone about such opportunities. More and more people got to know, which is good, because it meant more people were getting paid. But since the entry barrier was that low for such gigs or similar, almost everyone who tried enough could get in and make some money. When too many people jumped on those methods of making money, companies started lowering the pay per task. Not only did the saturation due to low entry barrier decrease the pay per task, but it also decreased the frequency by which every person receives a study or a gig. This affected how much each person makes per day, per week, per month. If you were a business, would you rather pay one person to review 5 features of your product or 5 different people to each test one? You'd probably choose the second option. More data points, more insights. So that's why even the people who are still doing those jobs barely get anything, because they are not getting enough tasks due to a larger pool of people willing to do these tasks. How do I know what is to work versus what's working? Well, I watched it all happen. When I started this video, I said I post what I do, test, and or research, and I really meant that. What I'm sharing in this video is 1 year worth of observation and pattern studying. If you pay attention enough, you realize that for months or even maybe dating back to a year, I started posting more videos about jobs over short-term gigs. I also started posting more about businesses, encouraging you to get into those. I did this knowing very well that if I continued posting those old videos of what used to work, probably I would get more views, but for me, it never made sense to prioritize views over impact or helping people, especially because I knew what was happening. I am in the industry or many industries of the things that I'm talking about, either doing those things, testing, or researching. So I'm well aware how the industries or the landscape is changing. And that's why I always adjusted my content for impact over personal gain. Whatever I gain thereafter is a bonus. What's actually working in 2025? Based on my experience and intense research, firstly, real online jobs or offline jobs, but I focus on online methods of making money. By real, I mean providing a service to a business or person. Long-term or short-term contracts where you are paid per hour, per week, per month, etc. This could be remote teaching, virtual assistant, customer service reps, professional jobs, you name it. These are jobs that require you to prepare a CV, a portfolio, a cover letter, do interviews, sometimes assessments. Most people don't like this because it's more work preparing all those things. But guess what? It's sustainable. You can build a career long term and even transition to offline jobs if that's what you want. The people who used to make money back then and not so much now are mostly the people who refused to adapt to the times and actually learn a skill or even how to write a CV. It's the people who believe that always make money easily, and that's because they didn't understand why it was that easy in the first place. Secondly, freelancing with real skills. If you are still avoiding learning any useful skills you can get paid for, making money online will only be harder as time goes. Some of you don't want to learn because you think it's taking too much time and you want money now. But what you fail to understand, time goes anyway. What happens when 2 years has passed, you were only chasing easy gigs and you haven't made money, or at least not enough to pay bills? It might not be you, but I do talk with some of you, especially on Instagram. You would be surprised to find out how many people do this, and most are not even aware that's what they are doing, running away from investing in learning something worth being paid for, all in the name of chasing methods that no longer work, or at least not like they used to. I'm not saying stop taking a gig paying $5 if you see it, cause $1 can make a difference when you're desperate. But for you to spend all your job searching daily hours only on that is not smart. Dedicate some time in building something that has a potential of taking care of you long term. When you make that $5 from doing something like a survey or study or a gig you know no real skill was needed, use that as encouragement instead of seeing it as a sign to try and find more of those low skill gigs. Because with low skill, you are easily replaceable. If no skill at all is needed, why should they choose you? So even though you may find similar gigs that pay $5, $2, the time they take from your day is not always worth the output, especially right now. So when you make that extra buck easily, ask yourself, if I was able to make $5 from this gig or survey, imagine how much I could make if I have a skill. And let that be the motivation for you to upskill yourself while taking those gigs. Don't sit around in hopes that you'll get more of those no skills gigs. There is a difference between no experience and no skill. You might not have experience, but you can have a skill through learning. So learn a skill. It could be writing, video editing, coding, graphic design, data entry, marketing, social media manager, etc. Offer that skills to direct clients or companies on platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, Contra, People Per Hour. Thirdly, starting an online business. Business is not for everyone, but this is one of the most reliable ways of making money if you are patient enough. Granted, for most people, it's hard to start a business if you are unemployed. And that's why option 1 and 2 are good for you if that's your reality. But I say number 3 is the most reliable because even though jobs or contracting is working well right now in the online space, you are still employed by someone who can decide otherwise tomorrow. Some of you can relate. You were working for invisible technology while others are still lucky enough to be still working there, but some of you have lost work because your project ended. That's why it's smart to have a business of some sort alongside a job if you want to do both, or switch completely to business if that's what you want and can handle. This has worked well for me. Some of you know I work a full-time job but also have multiple side hustles. I have my reasons why I would never quit my job, at least not in the foreseeable future, but I also know that online money has no ceiling. If you know that you don't want the stress of business or freelancing and a job is enough for you, then great. But again, at least once you start making money from your job, invest elsewhere. It could be stock market or anything. This video would be useless if I didn't tell you what to do. Yes, what used to work no longer works, but what can you do now to make sure you succeed? Because it's not that there's nothing that is working, but what used to work just doesn't work anymore. So you need to adjust. If you are starting from scratch or stuck right now, firstly, audit your skills. What can you do well? What can you learn fast? Secondly, choose a path. Are you going to be job hunting, freelancing, or doing business? You can do both or even all of them, but if you are starting out, I would highly recommend starting with one thing or at most 2 things. If you think you can manage all of them, then go ahead. If you choose job hunting, stop skipping the necessary parts. Learn how to write a good CV, cover letter, how to prepare for interviews, etc. If you are shy, maybe you don't trust your English, do something about it. Learn, watch videos, and practice. And of course, don't leave out the crucial part, which is applying for jobs. If you choose this path, spend more time on chasing jobs over one-off small gigs. Just because you saw a video in 2025 saying you could make lots of money doing surveys or watching ads, that does not mean you should believe it. Most of them are lying for views and monetizing your hope. When you land a job, even if it's a short-term contract, It's better than a once-off survey. Someone may say, but even jobs, you can lose them or get fired, which is true, but guess what? The experience counts for something. You can build a career with that experience. If you're only focusing on doing surveys, how are you going to quantify that experience? If you choose freelancing, invest time not just in honing one skill at a time, but also learn the platforms you are interested in trading on. If you have an online presence, maybe you want to trade directly, then improve your marketing skills and speaking skills. My advice, if possible, try to freelance to small businesses over individuals. You can find small businesses or clients on Upwork and the likes. When you sell to businesses, you don't need too many sales to move the needle. If you sell to individuals, make sure it's a repetitive service or product. That way you can secure the future of your business. For example, if you're working as a bookkeeper or VA, the pay per hour may not be much, but because such a service is not just a once-off thing, you get to plan better, as you'd most likely sign a couple of months or weeks contract at a time. If you choose a business approach and you sell physical products, I highly suggest doing mostly e-commerce. It's cheaper to start and high profit margins. You can build real businesses with this, and there are systems that make one's life much easier. If you do business but selling information through ebooks, courses, coaching, provide value and don't be a scammer. A lot of people underestimate the power of being honest and building a credible reputation. You may lie and take people's money, but you won't survive long in that business. So do things the right way and actually offer solutions to people's problems. There are people willing to pay for information, and you should not be ashamed of doing such a business if you know you are providing value. I for one don't like selling courses or doing this type of business, but I do buy courses from others when I want to learn fast. So not all course sellers or coaches are scammers. While there is a lot of money to be made online, there is the dark side of this make money online space. Not just now, but this has always been the case. Be aware of old methods being sold as new. There are still videos in 2025 saying make $100 today clicking ads, and oftentimes those people aren't doing those things themselves, but post these videos because they get views. And guess who is the victim? Lazy people who think the world owes them something and they deserve to be paid that much for doing such work. It's the people who would rather spend 60 minutes doing a $1 survey instead of revamping their CV or taking a course on how to be a VA freelancer. Those videos continue to be successful for YouTubers because a lot of people fall in that category. Secondly, beware of fake gurus selling BS courses. There is a whole economy of people selling courses on how to make money when the only way they are making money is by selling you the course. Before you buy a course, always ask yourself, am I being sold hype or a system? Making money online has never been effortless, but now the bar is even higher across industries. If you are lazy or want money without doing the work, I have bad news for you. Some of the gig platforms like Responded, Discount, Apen still pay for studies, but with how things have changed, they tend to choose people with specific skills. On Respondent, for example, you'll see studies paying $100 per hour, but when you click on them, you realize they require you to be skilled at something. So it's either the platforms aren't working as well anymore, or the pay is lower than ever, the frequency of studies is down, or the requirements have gone up. Which should tell you one thing: if you are lazy and not investing in upskilling yourself, you will be left behind.